So I made a video a while back. Couldn't really get out all I want to say about branded, but we'll start with this. Branded Fusion. This card, they have like a billion ways to search out Branded Fusion. So branded opening summons Aluber, and then Aluber will get you to Branded Fusion. And then there is also Tragedy technically. Like if you, I don't know, we'll just say Branded opening or Allure onto Tragedy, then that gives you a Luber, and then your normal summon a Luber, grab Branded Fusion. So they have like a lot of ways to get to Branded Fusion. And then if you really wanted to, you could grab Small World, for example. Just throw in a couple of copies of this, and I think, yeah, Effect Failure Bridges actually. And I think, does Ash Blossom Bridge? No. But you can throw in some hand trap bridges like Effect Failure, I guess. Effect Failure works. Effect Failure bridges, for some reason. Didn't actually notice that till just now, but yeah, you can. And you can run a lot of hand traps, because all you need is just a single Branded Fusion to resolve and a way into your Branded Fusion, or just straight up Branded Fusion. So they can just run whatever. Doesn't really matter to them. So basically, when you're facing against a branded player, they'll mostly be just trying to resolve Branded Fusion and then annoying you with hand traps. And they can accomplish a lot with just a single Branded Fusion. So what they can do is Branded Fusion, and then they send Tragedy and Fallen of Elbaz, and then that will allow them to summon Lubelia, and then they go into Mirror Jade, and then Tragedy, if you didn't know, has this lovely effect where you can banish your Tragedy in the graveyard, and then you can actually set the Branded Fusion again for the next turn. And with just a Mirror Jade, for example, if you manage to like remove their Mirror Jade from the field, but that banish that they do with their Mirror Jade actually is significant to you and affects you in some kind of a obnoxious way, I guess, like, and you can't lethal them, then Mirror Jade will pop every single monster on your field during the end phase, and you probably won't have a way to negate this. It's not very common for you to have a way to negate that effect of Mirror Jade. And then, well, I guess if you out Mirror Jade in the main phase and then called by it, I think that might work. But aside from like something like that, negating the destroy end phase effect is not very easily doable, and then your opponent will have guaranteed pretty much access to this Branded Fusion again off of the Tragedy effect. They can only use one of Tragedy's effects per turn, I believe, so you can either do the set effect here, where you can banish Tragedy and set a Branded Spell Trap, or you can use Tragedy's effect here to, when it is sent to the graveyard or banished, to add a Despia monster. And if they activated their effect at all, it sends Albion for cost, I believe, so they'll be able to set a Branded Spell Trap off this effect as well. So they can set like Branded in Red, Branded Opening, Branded Fusion, whatever. So this whole thing, really annoying. Really obnoxious, really consistent. And it's just not very fun to play against, and what I don't like about this deck here is that it's a bit of a helmet deck, I would say. Just branded in general. You just do this one line, this one kind of combo over and over again, where you're just basically making Mirror Jade and passing. And it's not that punishable either, because even if you max C them, Like, if they have Ash, of course they'll Ash the Maxi because it's basically ashing like a Pot of Greed for them in that situation, but they basically just summon Lubellion and then Mirror Jade, and then that's it. And that's pretty obnoxious, because even if you Maxi, it won't slow them down that much at all. And they can also just banish the Aluber to set Branded in red, and then they can go ahead and make Guardian Chimera on your turn, and then they pop a few cards, and then they'll summon back the Mirror Jade when they activate the ad libitum effect, which is also kind of annoying. This build I have here isn't even necessarily an optimal build, but this is just one card Branded Fusion, and then they just gets a plus off it like crazy. And if you can't stop the Branded Fusion, you basically just get fucked. The annoying thing about Branded Fusion is, in terms of like hand traps and such, that there isn't any hand trap that really stops Branded Fusion aside from Ash Blossom, which you will run only 3 of. So unless you're just a better duelist than me, I don't think you can just open 3 copies of Ash Blossom nearly every single game. And then aside from that, after Branded Fusion resolves, then everything just gets chain blocked. So you need like an effect failure or imperm on Lubellion or something. And that's the best you can really hope for at this point. But no matter what you do to the Branded Fusion, afterwards you have to play against like a bunch of hand traps. And I guess like some of these back row sets like this, that. And then the following turn they can just use Tragedy again to set the Branded Fusion, which they can then just activate, which is just a lot of resource off of one card. Assuming they can send Tragedy, I guess. Or they can use one of their many ways to search out another copy of Branded Fusion. Before they had 3 copies, but now they're at 2 copies of Branded Opening. It's whatever. Still really annoying. This card, Branded Fusion, if you haven't noticed that yet, well, if you don't know about it, I guess, you can send any dark monster in the game, and then Fallen of Albaz as well, and then for Albion, you can send any light monster and Fallen of Albaz. Like, if you want to send, I don't know, Haumon for some reason, you can send Haumon. Don't know why you would do that, but you can. And this is just one card. They can just activate this, and they can just go off. And the fact that you can allure and then hit Tragedy feels pretty brutal. I don't think this is set up quite right. I think in this build you'd probably remove these allures and then add more hand traps in this case. Like, I guess 3 imperm. Probably. But the amount of like interaction you get to have against this and what they can do to you, it's just very bland, honestly. It's the same as like pretty much, I don't know, just setting 5 and passing as an oblique player. It's kind of my impression on Branded here, because there's just not much in ways of well, there's not too many options for the Branded player either. They just resolve Branded Fusion, and that's basically their whole battle plan. So the amount of options they have for certain strategies isn't that great. For example, if you go ahead and make the Arrival with 4k attack, if you've noticed, there's literally not a single card in this deck that can actually out 4k Arrival. Like, for example, Super Poly. Super Poly actually can't affect the Arrival, so they cannot use your Arrival as material. And so this doesn't out it, and like for example Lightning Storm Raigeki, that would not out the rival. Forbidden Droplet doesn't work. Literally nothing works, and they have nothing with more attack than our boy the rival, I believe. Starving Venom, let's see if Starving Venom can do it. You can target one level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls. Well, a rival has no level, so if you just have like a single arrival on your field, I guess Starving Venom Fusion doesn't work either. Literally not a single card in this deck has the ability to out the rival, I believe, right? One just can't reduce its attack, yep. No flexibility, and for example, if your opponent just went ahead and made, let's say, Crooked Cook, you can't out this either. Like, you just can't. Like, if your opponent just makes a Crooked Cook with, like, an Astral Kribo or something along those lines, right hand, left hand shark, whatever, then you can't out this either. You can't burn your opponent or anything, you just lose. And in terms of just back row removal, aside from main decked back row removal, you only have Guardian Chimera. So basically every time, every single turn, you're just activating or trying to resolve Branded Fusion, searching Branded Fusion, and then you go ahead, you end on a Mirror Jade. And that's about it. That's literally all you do. You just pump out Mirror Jade with your Branded Fusion, and then you just beat your opponent because you have so much resource off of just resolving Branded Fusion, basically. And then you generally have hand traps that really hinder your opponent. I guess in this case we would have Imperm. Like, I don't know, something like this, probably. This looks closer and more right, I think, but basically this deck is just not very fun to play against, and it doesn't have much for you to do against it. It's just, honestly, a lot of the newer decks are like this, like Flu. Flu is kind of in the same category as Branded for me, personally, because you just do the same combo, and you only have one combo. There's like not much you can do aside from resolving Branded Fusion, and then you do, I don't know, you make this, or you make this, you make this, and then you end on the same end board. Every single Flu player, for example, will end on like the same end board. Like if you give a Flu player a map and a Rabina, they're just going to end on like M-Pen Barrier Statue with like map and Dreaming Town. And then they'll probably search out the Omni like sometime next turn. The Omni being Apex Avian. And I'm not really a fan of these decks when they're played like, well, I mean, they can only really be played like this with how they're designed. I much prefer like something more flexible, personally. Like, DD is pretty flexible. DD does have a one-card combo, but it's not like I just go ahead and I just do the one-card combo and just end on like 5 billion hand traps every single time. That's really not what the deck is about, like this. And the interactions DD does, I much prefer that, and how we have much different combo lines. For Branded, you're just basically turboing out Mirror Jade, and then you just attack for game. And with Flu, you're just getting out the Barrier Statue, and then your opponent can't play, and then you just attack them and win the game. That's kind of how I see that. With DD, I much prefer that because of the amount of interaction we have with DD. Like, if I get hit by an Ash Blossom in my 1-card combo, it's not quite the same. Well, because, for example, like, my 1-card combo can be stopped by like a billion different cards, as well as the flu one at least, but since they just need to resolve a branded fusion, that's a little bit more annoying, I guess, as well. Like, if I go ahead and use my Kepler effect, then I can get effect pillared, impermed, whatever. I just feel like there's more interaction with like DD, for example. But I mean, DD actually requires brain power to play. You don't just resolve branded fusion and then like Lubellion, Mirror Jade, and then just call it a day. The most thinking you have to do for branded, in my opinion, is you just have to remember you need to actually discard a card for Lubellion. That's about it. So I think this is like basically on the same tier as the 1-card Halcyon decks where they're running like Jet and whatnot, like Unizombie, Samurai Skull, whatever they're running. I don't quite remember. It's been a while, but they just do that. Sometimes I guess they'll throw in the adventure package as well, and then they just turbo out that Halcyon board. This basically has the same energy for me, and I don't really enjoy this kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh. There's some cool branded decks though, I guess, like where you play branded with something else, like, I don't know, branded Dark Magician. I think that's a bit interesting, but you'll probably just end up doing Mirror Jade Turbo. That's how I feel about it, at least. So, yeah, see ya, guys.